Nephews are in the workshop last week doing a bit of work on the car. Let's give you a quick overview on what they've been up to. Our 5 links here, we're starting to get a bit of surface rust on them, so we buzzed them back. Bit of a wire wheel on the drill there, and then prepped them all up, hung them up and gave them a paint. So I've got the young lads in there. Quick wax and grease remover. Obviously safety first, had our gloves on, and then just a bit of zinc primer. So he did a good job there, getting them all hung up, and we got tape around the top to stop the rose joints getting painted. Prepped them all up with wax and grease, coat of paint. Good work, lad. Also over here, we've cut off those mounts that I got wrong. So these are off of the roll cage and the diff now. So it's a matter of once the chassis rails have been completely welded, I'll put the diff back in and we have to look at the best way to set up the panhard rod. So it's a good afternoon, got a lot done. All the boys are working really well together and we're starting to move along. So finish these chassis rails off, get the diff back in, get the panhard rod back on, and that's that part of the job somewhat done. So welcome back. I mean, I've done a lot on these chassis rails over the last couple of episodes, and right here I'm actually finishing them all off. So once that original chassis rail was cut out the way, there was like a massive big hole. You can sort of see the hole in the background there on the back of the chassis rail. And so I had my nephews, we made some cardboard cutouts and made up some templates because the shape's not an exactly square piece of flat bar. So we made a nice shape out of cardboard and then transferred it over to some 50mm wide, 3mm thick flat bar, and bent it up, and here you can just see me tacking it all in place and using the G-clamps. So I tend to use the MIG welder a lot more when I'm tacking, just it's a far easier welder to tack with, but these continuous welds I did want to use the TIG welder just because I like the way that welds. And these are doing the plug welds on the side plates here, so this is probably way overkill and way too much work needing to be done, but I've seen someone else do it in this sort of fashion and thought, if anything, it kind of looked cool. So yeah, doing that with the MIG welder as well, it's just an easier welder to do a nice plug weld like that, as it just pumps in heaps of wire. And so yeah, there we go. So that's sort of all capped off down the bottom and all sealed up. And then on the back here, we kind of done the same thing where we bent up some flat bar 3mm thick, just to sort of connect the back of that new chassis notch there to the original rail. And here I am just sort of tacking it in place with the MIG, and then doing the finished weld with the TIG. Same thing. I'm just sort of using both welders that for their strengths really. And you can see here I've actually got 2 helmets on the go. That red one that I'm currently taking off, that's my MIG welding helmet, and it gets a lot of spatter on it, so you can't see very well out of it, which isn't that big of a concern with a MIG welder, but I try to keep my good helmet more for the TIG welding and try to keep it away from the MIG welder so it doesn't get all spattery and horrible. And that's basically it really. We're sort of getting to the end of all the welding and everything that needs to be done on them chassis rails. So that's the chassis rails all capped up and welded and done. So it's been a bit of a process. We finally got there to get them done. Is it overkill? Probably. There's a fair bit of steel on those joins. I did it all with 3mm plate. But I'm going to put a reasonably large fuel tank on the back, and I'm also needing to run a panhard rod off of those chassis rails. And since we're dealing with quite a bit of side load drifting, I want to make sure that they're super strong. So pretty happy with that for my first ever chassis notch. Probably went a bit overboard with it, but I don't think it's going to fail. So there we go, that's all sorted. The nephews are actually on their way. They should be here
fairly soon. So today's little project will be to prep all that up and clean them and get them painted. So I'll get one of them onto that, cleaning and painting those. So there we go. One little bit more chipped away at the project. If you haven't been following the build so far, I'm not building this on my own. I'm actually building it with 4 young lads. So I'll just give you a quick recap. 3 of them are my nephews. One of them actually turned 12 yesterday. So happy birthday, mate. So yeah, I got my 3 nephews and one of their good friends comes along as well. So I've got 4 young lads that are building this car with me. And the idea is to have it finished by the time that they're around about 14, so that they can head out to the racetrack and enjoy some motorsport. So they come around mostly on Wednesdays, provided my work schedule isn't too busy, and we try to teach them all sorts of stuff about working in a workshop and using different tools and what it's like to work on a fairly big project. So I enjoy having them here. They do a good job. They're learning lots, and you can really see their skills developing along. So good work, lads. Keep it up. We've got a long road ahead of us, but we are definitely chipping away. So I'll show you what they were up to yesterday. They came in. We machined up some bushes. Well, not bushes. It's more of a spigot. Machined up these here. And this is so we can set all of our suspension arms to exactly the same length. So like I always say, the magic of the equal length rear arms is that they're all equal. So this jig here allows us to set all of them exactly the same. And for whatever reason, if one ever came out the car or we're doing some repairs, we can always have this as a reference to go back to set it. So nice little jig there. Well done, boys. So yeah, they did a bit of machining, a little bit of TIG welding to allow us to set them up. And then I finished welding up these chassis rails yesterday. So one of the boys got in there and prepped them all up and gave them a coat of paint, which is fantastic. So we're moving along. So nice thing happened a couple of weeks ago. Max was here at the workshop. I was out and about doing something else. One of the long-time drifters from SA dropped in. He was doing a few things with Max and had a quick look at the shell. Now he actually drifts a K70 wagon, 4-door, but same setup. They have a leaf spring rear end, and he was letting me know that the front mounts where I'm mounting my bottom lower control arms on the diff, he'd done pretty much the same thing, and he had dramas with ripping them off the chassis. So the standard way that they're attached to the chassis is not strong enough. So it was really nice to have some inside input there from someone who runs a very similar car. So we're going to jump underneath the car, prep all that up, and fully stitch weld, basically. Fully stitch weld? That doesn't make sense. Stitch weld the bracket to the chassis just to give it a whole lot more strength. I had a look under there yesterday. I reckon the amount of weld that I can get on there and where the chassis is, I think that should be enough strength. The guy who was having a look at this actually explained that he ended up tying his back into his roll cage to provide strength. So I'm going to get under there and weld, and while I'm doing the job, I'll consider if we need to add more reinforcement or not. But yeah, thanks for the hot tip. Very helpful, much easier for me to be doing that sort of work now rather than later on down. And it's nice to learn from other people's experience. And yeah, running a similar car, had a drama, got told about it, so let's sort that out now. So let's get that sorted.
So if you want to do a nice weld, it all actually really starts with preparation. As you can see, there's a fair bit of crap left over on these chassis rails. It's it is a 30-something plus old car. It's definitely been bashed through a paddock at some stage in its recent past, and so I'm just sort of cleaning everything up, trying to get back down to some nice raw steel, and I use these wire brushes in my drills. They do a pretty nice job, and get right in there, right on the edge of where I want the weld to be, and we'll try and get most of the junk out of there so that the welder can just get in and start welding through to straight, nice, clean, beautiful, fresh steel, rather than trying to burn its way through old crusty dirt and all that sort of stuff. So here we are, stitch welding, and again, back on the MIG welder. I just find the way that the MIG just penetrates in nice and deep straight away is a really nice welder for doing this type of work. So I'm working my way around the mount there, and here you can see I'm just wanting to get that piece of sheet steel to sit nice and flat before I start welding. And so every now and then you just got to get out with the old persuasion tool and just get some steel to move around where you want it to be. And I'm probably cheating a little bit here because I've actually done the other mount already, so you can sort of see me looking back at the other mount, and I'm just trying to copy what I did on the other side and keep everything universal. I mean, no one's ever going to see this. It's underneath a car that's going to be running very low, but I am trying to sort of stitch in the same spot on both sides just so it's uniform, so that I can sleep better at night without having to deal with my OCD. I say OCD, I've got a fairly similar condition to OCD, but it's called CDO because it's in alphabetical order the way that it should be. So here we go, yeah, just finishing up on the end of them.
Fair bit of stitch weld on everything. Pretty happy with that. I put a fair amount in. So if we start ripping that off, probably doing something wrong. But I don't know, gut feeling tells me that should be more than plenty to hold on to it. Close look if you want. I was stitching this piece of sheet steel here from factory. It's only got the spot welds. So I'm welding that sheet there to the actual chassis and to the body of the car. And that's obviously the plate that I added in to run our suspension mount. I'll clean them up, give them a lick of paint, and that's another job done. So I think they should be strong enough, should be good enough for what we're doing, and we can look at getting the diff in now.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you're enjoying it. That's the chassis rails basically all done and finished now. Hey, have you got a cool car, or do you have like an interesting project that you're currently working on? I really want to see it. Can you please send me a Snapchat on Second Stage 86? Send it through. I'm always keen to see interesting, fun stuff. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy.